All right, Joshua Sun, welcome to the podcast. Fun fact, when you type in Joshua Sun in YouTube, it takes you to a bunch of sermons on Joshua chapter 10 where the sun stood still. So I feel like metaphorically, right now we have that. We have the sun standing still. We've captured lightning in a bottle, and you will bless us with lots of knowledge on entrepreneurship and, dare I say, even wisdom. How's that
Thank
for
you,
an
Nathan.
intro?
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. I appreciate you, brother. Man, you are just such a great brother in Christ. You appreciate how you're always looking to add value and just you taking action. Like you doing this podcast is something I've been wanting to do, but I haven't gotten to it, and you are just doing it. And you have such a great heart to help people and just to advance the kingdom. And yeah, so I just respect that, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate those kind words. I feel like right back at you for all the stuff that you're doing. You've really had sounds like a really busy, great, amazing growth year for you. And you spoke up at Squad Up Summit. You were on stage, and it sounds like you've really found like your path in life. And I know when I look at you and what you're doing, Owen, I see someone that's a brother in Christ that's very vocal about their faith. And I wanted to ask you. Along those lines, because in the business world, they say that building trust is important, right? You want people to know, like, and trust you in order to lend money with you or do business with you or anything. And I was wondering, just for you personally in your story, do you think your faith in Jesus has helped you build credibility and trust with investors, and or has it ever cost you?
I think probably both. The way I approach it is, a lot of what I do is through my content to help people know what I'm doing to build that trust. My thought about that is just because God is center to everything I do, God is everything. If somebody watches my content and they don't know that about me, I feel like that would be being inauthentic to who I am. So, somebody who like maybe doesn't like that, they can say, "Hey, don't push your faith, down my throat or don't force your faith on me." But then at the same time, they would be kind of hypocritical if they were like, then you can't be yourself. So that's just my approach, and I just trust God that ultimately He's the provider. So I'm sure it's gonna maybe turn some people away, but God's been so faithful, and He's gonna bring good brothers and sisters like yourself to work with, and it's just been amazing. So yeah, that's just kind of my approach.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. And God is faithful. God blesses. It even says in the Bible, God, will bless the people that seek Him. You draw near to Him, He draws near to you. And one thing I think people that don't realize is, or they don't want to think about, is that everyone has a faith. Like everyone believes in something. Everyone has a set of rules, aka a religion. People think that other people should act this way or do this or that. So you're right. My sense from you is it would be inauthentic for you not to mention that and for that not to shine forth. And as you know, secular entrepreneurs and Christian entrepreneurs in the space in general, they're one of the advice things that, because I watch a lot of videos, on this stuff, is they always encourage you to be authentic and talk about, um, you know, just be authentic. Like it's organic social media marketing, right? And so that's great for you. And when you were saying that too, I thought about like, man, if I'm not like doing that, it's encouragement to me because if I'm not being honest and talking about my faith, like it makes me question, like, is that authentic to me? Like, do I need to be a more authentic Christian? There's someone that believes and like talks about what they believe. If not, like, why is it not coming natural to me? Is there something I need to fix in my own life before I market it to other people?
Yeah, and I think I'm reminded when you say that, like the Bible says that, just do your good works so that even if people like don't like your faith, but they can still respect the good works you do. I don't know
Yeah.
the exact verse of the wording, but so I think as we just continue to do good, which I know you're all about, and continue to do real estate, but then for an impact, hopefully that over time people can see that, see the good works and give glory to God.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm guessing if people aren't into what you're, you know, and aren't into Jesus, right? They're not probably not going to get along with you too much, anyways. I mean, if it's that big of a turn off, right? It's not that you're only working with Christians or that you only work with people that act like this or that. But if it's that big of a turn off, I'm guessing that wasn't your market, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome, man. I appreciate that. I mean, before moving on from that, is just want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything you've learned lately? Anything that's been on your heart? Something you've learned from the scripture or a pastor or anything?
What's been kind of a revelation is I've been burdened probably for at least the last 10 years or longer that I'm not doing enough to help the hurting, the needy, or the poor. because I've been so busy with work and I have, two kids. My wife works full time. Again, that's not an excuse. But then this past weekend, I visited an orphanage in Sonata, Mexico. Their rooms reeked of urine because of all their mattresses were 10 years old, and kids who go through a lot of trauma, they're more likely to pee their beds, and they didn't have money to buy new beds. So I saw the need, and by God's grace, like I just on the drive home, somebody else was driving. I just made a video, posted on Instagram and Facebook, and within 24 hours people gave and God provided money for the beds, sheets, pillows, pillow covers, and plastic covers for the mattresses. And we just ordered them, and part of it got delivered today. The other ones that we delivered tomorrow and Monday. And that just showed me even more so like the power of social media, but to do good. And I feel like God is finally connecting the dots of like, hey, I was having you go on this path of building your social media audience so that you can now use it to do good. And also the other stuff I'm raising capital for is to help foreclosures, which I feel like that's also making an impact. So I feel like God is just kind of preparing without me knowing, and then just kind of connecting all the dots now and kind of activating what's always been in my heart, but then with the tools that He's been just preparing me with.
Oh man, that's amazing to hear. That's so good to hear that you're able to do that and have that impact, and your investors were able to look at your social media and actually, use social media for good, not just doom scrolling and whatnot. But man, I think a lot of people like don't realize like there's just so much like, wickedness in the world. There's so much evil, there's so much poverty, there's so much people hurting, and we have such an abundance resources that we could be using. We could be doing so much more, right? And I'm just talking out loud for me and myself, like too. Like I'm not putting anyone in this box because I just know me and myself. I'm like, man, if it's just even more motivation. Like I listened to a podcast where you said you save 10 hours a week by, buying Trader Joe's coffee and scheduling your phone calls while you're driving. I'm like, man, if I could devote 10, if I could make another 10 hours a week, think of all the good that I can do in this world. If like one big thing about me is that we were talking offline is like just kind of changing the culture a little bit. I think if people would just maybe put down like Xbox or stop smoking weed all day. They're not saying can't do what you want to do sometimes, but there's so much like potential to like make this world a better place. And as entrepreneurs, I think we just have the wherewithal to like see that and know that and do that. Good on you, man. I that was cool that you've done that. And I don't know if you want to take this opportunity to just like talk about your Mount Everest as we were talking about offline. What's your end goal in all this before we get into like the nitty gritty of what you're doing?
Yeah, my Mount Everest or our 5-year goal is to help 1,000 people leave their W-2, save 2,000 homes from foreclosure, and then help, I don't know the number, maybe like 10,000 people, orphans have a better future. One thing I've learned about the orphans that's really sad is when they're 18, they have to leave the orphanage unless they pursue academics. But the kind of interesting thing is most of them don't choose academics because they don't even have the concept of, hey, if I study, then that can help me get a job and make a better income and live a better life. So what they end up doing is they just go into the fields and work as a laborer picking crops. But there's pesticides there, they don't use gloves, so their hands turn all black and it's permanent. And then also they just enter into this life of poverty and crime and drugs and prostitution. And they live in these huts with just like an aluminum thing on the top without a running bathroom. So it's just a really terrible life. So as much as it was a blessing to give them the mattresses, like there's so much work to be done to really help them in a longer impact way, because from the time they're 18 to the time they die, that's a lot of years, right? So
Yeah.
if we don't find a way, God finds a way to help them, then it's still going to be a really terrible life. And I mean, this past Tuesday was my younger daughter's birthday, so we got a bunch of water balloons, and we 265 water balloons we did in our backyard. But then last night, my wife's like, "Hey, the gardener's coming tomorrow. You need to pick those up because it's gonna ruin the lawnmower." So after dinner, we went up and I bent over and picked them up. And at first, I was not having. Now I just have to confess, I was not having a great attitude about it because my back hurts and stuff. And then that just reminded me, like, "Hey." And I told my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter, because she was doing it with me. I was like, "Hey," because she went with the orphanage trip with me, which was cool for her to see that. I was like, "Hey, this is what the orphans have to do. Imagine doing this 8 to 9 hours a day, every single day in the heat." So that just gave me such a perspective of like, we have to do something to help these orphans. By God's grace, our church goes once a year to Izamal in Yucatan, Mexico, and they built a school where now they're like the number one in the country in like math or physics, and the kids who graduate the school, they're actually getting good jobs. So we're trying to go there and learn what we can, and then bring it back to the orphanages to help these kids.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's a great perspective to have too. Like, there's no time to like sit around and relax. Like, I'll say there's no time, but like time's limited, right? We gotta bring heaven to earth, right? And like, like, Yeah, I go back to the Our Father prayer, bring your kingdom here on earth. It's possible. This stuff isn't like it's a dire situation, but like you know it better than I do, man. It's possible to bring so much good and hope and healing. And one of those ways that you've been able to do this is because of the time freedom you built, right, from your entrepreneurial routes. And I was wondering, out of all the entrepreneurial routes that are out there, buying laundromats or, like wholesaling in real estate or this or that, out of all the entrepreneurial routes and specifically in real estate, what drew you to capital raising?
Well, I kind of fell into it because my background's in mortgage. So last year I met Pace in March and joined the Sub 2 and then Gator and then Owners Club in July and April at Squad Up. My goal is still to buy and hold properties, but I thought I would go after deals by door knocking foreclosures, but that didn't work out. And in June, in the Gator community, which is private money lenders, there's somebody who needed 450,000. So I invested 200K out of my HELOC, raised 100K from someone I met through social media, and 150 from someone in Owners Club. And then so I was able to do that, and then next week raise another 400K for the same person. So I just was like, hey, this works. Let me continue down this path. And then God just it was hard because in July, actually, I depleted all my savings, tapped into our HELOC, even had the conversation with my wife, like, hey, if things don't turn around, we may need to sell the house. And at that point, my mortgages have been going down. I think because my clients and realtor partners sensed that my heart was in real estate investing. And I felt like I had to just shift full time into it because I was over the mortgage. So I'd have the energy and the mental capacity to go back and try to fix it. My only out was to partner with a friend who's really good and say, hey, I'm going to bring him in. He's going to do a better job. And then so I could do full time. And then that's when God showed up. He connected me with a developer here, and I was able to raise capital for him from July till January, which got me until the time where I met my partner to do the foreclosure deals I'm doing right now. So it was all just by God's grace and just kind of stumbling into it. But I think maybe the lesson here is that if somebody's interested in leaving their W-2 or getting into real estate investing, there's just so many different lanes or things you can do, like you mentioned. And it's just about kind of taking steps in faith, calculated risk. I'm not telling everybody to leave their job like I did at all, but until you kind of take those steps and figure out what's there and what's right for you, you may not even know, but God will lead you and God will be faithful.
How did you know how to even raise capital if you've never done it before? Did being a licensed mortgage broker help you out in that? Did you use social media to begin with, or did you figure that out later?
Yeah, great question. I mean, so much of it was everything I've done is by God's grace, but so much of it he's used social media. I was never a social media person before. I never even had an Instagram account until about a year and a half ago. And I still to this day do not scroll because I just post and, I make content, but I don't scroll because I don't have time. But I started my social media with my mortgage business, but then when I started doing the real estate investing, I just started posting content about that. And as far as like how to raise capital, I think that if you like people and you like building relationships and you can kind of explain things and can gain the trust of people, I think that, may make you a good capital raiser. But I think also too, again, I'm not like boasting or anything at all, but I think a lot of the investors were people I knew through my mortgage business, like my realtor partners, my clients who invested. And then something that they have said is when I share the opportunity with them, they're like, hey, that sounds good, but you know what? I'm just investing because I trust you. So I think just having good relationships in general, if people tend to trust you, then I think that could be a big factor too.
Did you notice that in yourself before that you like would go through life and just build trust with people and people like just naturally like brightened up around you?
I think, again, all glory to God because I got saved in 2009 at age 29. Before that, I was a very bad person, like completely honest, just partying, just doing drugs and all kinds of just, horrible things. Lost a lot of friends because I would just be totally selfish. And then when God saved me, he totally transformed me and very imperfectly through the, as you know, sanctification. I just tried my best and I would just repent and try. And I'm still very flawed. My wife will tell you that all the different ways. But I think by his grace, I do try to live by his word and try to like follow him and love others and stuff like that. So I think, if there's any good in me, it's definitely from God. And yeah, so I would say, but then another thing is I think since I was younger, God's all kind of given me the ability of persuasion. For example, like back in the day, like when we were doing drugs and stuff, again, I'm totally ashamed to say this, but like there's a lot of people that I was a really bad influence and there's a lot of people I got to like try their first time smoking weed or doing other drugs. So again, not proud of that at all, but some of it may be just kind of like your natural inclination or your natural like ability of influence.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, God, works all things together for good for those who trust in him. And so, it even talks about like I'm sure Paul, like when he was, he had a zeal like to be a Pharisee of Pharisees, right? And then God turned that around and he became like the number one apostle evangelist. So he had that natural ability to focus on something and go for it and go with all of his heart. I also think about, and as far as the trust and credibility aspect of it, Dennis Prager has this like thought experiment where he asks just a person, hey, if you're like walking down in the middle of the street at night and there's no one around, and then a group of guys like come out of a like and just pop out of nowhere, like a group of three guys. Like, would it make you feel better or worse just having no other information at your disposal, knowing that they just got out of a Bible study or not?
Hmm.
And, even like the most ardent, like, atheist that was just anti-religion society would probably say that would make them feel a little bit better, right? And
Hmm.
so I think there's a natural, like, just by God's grace, like a trust when you're doing the gospel right is to trust the fact that like you're devoted to something higher and you believe you're accountable even if you like lie or cheat or something, you're accountable to something, a higher power.
Yeah, no, I love that. I've never heard that before. That makes a lot of sense. Going back to the Paul thing, like one interesting thing that I learned because by God's grace, was able to go to Talbot Seminary for 3 years, and
Wow.
is how God like uniquely prepared him for to be like the apostle to the Gentiles, because he's so steeped in the Jewish culture and the history and the trainings from Gamaliel, but he also was like perfectly knowledgeable about the Greek customs because he's from
Right.
Tarsus and he was a tent maker and all that. So
Roman
I think that's
citizen.
really cool how just if you look at Paul's life, you see how God really prepared him all his life without him knowing to that point of being the greatest missionary ever.
Yeah, yeah, amazing too. Yeah, I could go on about, there's a lot of like stuff that rings up to talk about, but that's cool. Uh on Along those lines, capital raising was kind of a natural progression. I just kind of God put the pieces in place for you, right? And I'm sure that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that helps you with numbers, just knowing your numbers and having that ability to like look at a loan and know if something's over leveraged or not.
Yeah, I think the mortgage background helped a little bit. I wouldn't say it's, like super like necessary. I think the numbers part, I'm definitely more of a left-brain person where I'm more science, math, and reading and creativity. So I think yeah, basic I don't know, skill with numbers, I guess, is a good skill to have too.
Yeah. And then you said before that you raised $9 million in 9 months. Like, how did you do that? Like, what was your steps? I remember you just told me that some of it was past relationships you had from your mortgage broker career. But I'm just wondering, how many people did you raise that from? Or was it just one investor that had $9 million that just gave it to you? I'm sure it wasn't that, but I just kind of want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's all by God's grace. But these were from private investors, and the average amount is maybe like 50,000 to 100,000. And I also have to give the credit to the opportunity that God brought with the developer, and also with the foreclosure deals. And these are just really, really attractive deals that almost like sells itself. So, I think maybe the lesson there is as a capital raiser, it's worthwhile to explore and try to look at as many opportunities as possible because when you have a really good opportunity, that just makes your job a lot easier. And the way I did it was just through content. For example, with the developer, these were for they were developing tenants in common units or TIC units for affordable housing. So I would post content about just affordable housing, the crisis, the impact we're making, storytelling. According to Ken McElroy, who's a big, one of the best leaders and biggest people in the real estate industry, when he came on a training with Pace and Owners Club, Pace asked him, "What's the number one thing you want to tell people about capital raising?" And he said, "If you're not ready to tell a story, if you can't tell a story, you're not ready to raise capital." So it's really about telling the story because people make decisions based on emotion and then they justify with logic. And the way we connect with emotion is by storytelling, like since kids. So whatever deal we're doing, so with the affordable housing, I would tell the story about the founder, what led him to care about affordable housing. And it was because his grandfathers grew up in the projects, but then also just tell the story about how their unique strategy, their unique approach, how they're able to build the homes, and then also just creating content to document it. And we would do investor tours where we would take investors, take them to different properties at different stages, and I would buy them lunch or coffee, and we would just kind of document everything just to show people what we're doing. And by God's grace, I think people saw that, and it just maybe for the trust from before, because people know, a lot of people who invested know that I'm new to it, but I think because they just see me hustling out there and also networking with the right people like in Pace's community, they still trusted me enough to invest in these deals.
Right. Yeah. At Squat Up Summit, Donald Miller gave a great speech on storytelling, and I'm actually going through his book right now, Story Branding. Did that stick out to you at all, or did that help you out? I think during the last Squat Up Summit, that was before you had your massive success. Was that right?
Yeah, I remember him. I love Donald Miller. I think he's great, and yeah, I think what he says is great. So that's one of the good storytelling books for sure. How to Tell a Story by The Moth is really good too. I
Okay.
know there's a bunch of other ones.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you've done that through social media a lot. When if you go on your social media, it really stands out like the quality of your content. You do a lot of organic and then whatever is the opposite organic produced, I guess you would say. Who do you hire for that and how does that conversation go?
Yeah, I mean, I started doing it myself, so I think it's a kind of a process. And then I did invest a lot of money into different programs. I think with anything, my belief is to get the quickest from where you want to go from A to B is just to learn from somebody who's there who can teach you. Because either, and I know not everybody can afford it, so I'm not saying everyone has to, but if you can't afford, I feel like you either pay with by paying a coach to show you how to do it, or you're gonna pay with time and mistakes. And at my age, at age 45, I just want to pay for the time. So it's a lot of just learning through being in coaching programs. Neil Dingra's Content Accelerator is really good. He has a mastermind that's more expensive that I'm in, and also Omar Al Takori. He's a great YouTube creator, pastor in Vegas as well. He has a lot of free content. So I just started with that, and then later I got VAs to help me edit the videos because then that editing takes a long time, and they could do stuff that I couldn't do. But right now with CapCut, for like $10 a month, you can take a template and just edit a bunch of edit videos yourself in like 10, 15 minutes. And that's what I did with my orphanage video. And right now, the preference in social media is people prefer more raw and organic stuff, anyways. So it's actually not good to do overly produced because it feels more like an ad to us, and we're so kind of anti-ad and sensitive to
Yeah.
that. But then eventually, right now, by God's grace, because of the business has been scaling, I have a creative director who's helping me do all of the editing and also doing other platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn. So, but I think it's definitely a progression. And if anybody's interested for a low cost editor who does a unlimited editing, really good stuff for $1,000 a month. You can DM me at JoshuaSun26 on Instagram, and I can connect you with him. I know a few people who work with him, and he does a good job.
Nice. What's the 2 6 stand for?
2 6 is actually the grammatical numeric value of Yahweh, YHWH in the Old Testament.
Okay. All right. Nice. There's a lot to within that. I really like the content that you have for your like just it could be any topic. Like you'll go over something like Rich Dad Poor Dad or like the like how do you effectively drink coffee, all that. It looks like you probably batch uploaded or batch recorded a lot of that stuff on one day. I say that based on the clothes you're wearing. But what about the like who did you pay someone to edit that for you too? Because I like video editing like myself, but like it takes such a long amount of time and then like if your goal is to make money, like, and you're not specifically focused on that, it could just be a huge time drain.
Yeah, no, I definitely have somebody edit it. And to your point, yeah, it's better to not do it yourself. And then I do batch record. I'll do social media for like 3 hours a week on Tuesdays. But if I get an idea or inspiration, I'll save it on my phone in a folder and I just make a note so that when on that Tuesday, because what I've learned from Jim Quick, his book Limitless is phenomenal. Highly recommend that to maximize productivity is the state of getting into the state of flow where you're just in the zone and your creativity's flowing and everything's effortless, like time kind of stops. And you can be up to 5 times as productive when you're in flow. But the thing is about flow is it takes you anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes to get into it. And you have to remove all the distractions. So you have to time block that, have somebody kind of, I have my EA to manage my business so I don't have to be there and then I can focus on that. But so when you're in the flow, then in that 3 hours or 2 hours at least, then you can just really, get into that creative mode and then produce all the content and I give it to my creative director and he'll schedule that out and post it.
That's great. That 2 to 3 hours though could be very hard for some people to make time like uninterrupted, right? I'm just thinking of my own life, like just the season I'm in, like it could just really hard. Are you able, like if I was able to find 2 to 3 hours on a Tuesday or whatever, like am I able to do that every single Tuesday and plan it out and make it happen? Or do you in your personal experience have some times where you're not able to really fully get there, or is it kind of like hit or miss?
Yeah, I mean that's part of the calendar series that I learned from Pace that he's teaching us. For me, and I think for most people, when you in the mornings, our brains are more fresh, and as the day goes on, your battery kind of drains. So for me, it's really hard for me to do kind of deep deep thinking work and later in the day. And the other part is just to have a team. And I know in the beginning it's really hard. Whether that's like what I used to do is I used to wake up at 3 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. and that was really hard. I don't necessarily recommend that, but whatever you can do, whether it's working with your spouse or hiring even executive assistant, even part-time to, depending on the nature of your work, where you can have that at least an hour and a half to 2 hours, block that time without distractions. I'll turn my phone on do not disturb. And some people do it at night. They're like more of the night owl type. But yeah, I think just scheduling blocks of time where you can do that deep work, whether it's creating content or even like thinking like CEO type level analysis or strategy for your business is super key.
Right. And then when you do that, I know it's obviously more productive to just get like distraction free and to get into that work mode, but like would you say that you get into flow each time reliably?
I mean, I don't know. I can't tell, but I feel like for the most part, yeah, because it takes you about 15 minutes to go through the struggle and then like distraction and settle in. But I know the book says that every time you change context, like it takes your brain a lot of energy and it takes time to kind of get back into. So I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you just, and I try not to think about it, I try not to look at the text and stuff. So I try to focus. Even like if I'm taking a bathroom break, I would just, hey, just stay focused on this. Just keep thinking about this. And I feel like, yeah, over, in like 15, 30 minutes or so, I feel like I start getting into the flow or at least like where my mind is settled into that, like,
Yeah, 100%. When you are back to the social media, when you're guiding your social media person to edit your videos, like what's the conversation look like when you're talking about the theme or the tone or like whether you want it long form or short form, the style of the video? How do you have that conversation? Or do you just kind of give them creative control and you're done?
I think for my stuff, I do very minimal editing. And we've talked about like different, what the font size and what the color. But besides that, he might just do like zoom in and zoom out. But I don't like going back to how organic is better these days. Less is more. So I don't have a lot of like graphics or editing. Anytime he's really good though, because he's not just like a regular editor, but he's like a really high level creative director. So a lot of times I'm surprised at how good he makes things because I can't even imagine. I'm like, hey, here's the concept, this is the picture, or for example, like I read his book from Trash Man to Cash Man, and I was like, hey, I just like this quote from him. So my thought was like, hey, just take a picture of the thing and then just post the this is the takeaway or whatever, and that's how I would have done it. But I just gave him that concept, and he like clips like a video of Myron and then made like an animated thing and like so I give him creative direction or freedom to do what he wants, and I'll just on some of the things like stories, but then on some of the reels when I'm talking, we keep it pretty basic.
Nice. So he's like kind of gave him like concept art to work with on that. You've obviously during this conversation just alone, you've mentioned several different people's books you've read or people you look up to. Daniel Priestley is one of them that I hear you refer back to constantly. I wanted to ask you about him a little bit because I just started looking at him up online and I have a Spotify subscription, so I'm probably gonna go through some of his books because of the fact that you've recommended him. Can you tell me what makes him stand out to you so much? And the reason I asked just because I've heard you mention him quite a few times.
Yeah, I think he's one of the most brilliant minds that I've come across. Like when I'm reading his books, Key Person of Influence is a really good one. Like he has a series, Entrepreneurial Revolution. Oversubscribed is probably the most relevant to capital raising that I highly recommend. And I
Mhm.
gained so much of that just from how he teaches about sales psychology. Meaning, for example, Google did a study where when making an important buying decision, most people think about it on average 7 hours. And the mistake that I was making was, hey, you're interested in investing? Okay, let me send you all this information and then let me check back in you 2 days. Like, what do you think? Do you want to invest or not? And that's not enough time for them to process it. So even if they're like 90% ready, if you give them a binary decision or question, they're going to say no. But the way that he shifted me with that is and also with automation, that taught me to create a bunch of different content, like short videos of the property tour or FAQ sheet and different videos and emails and meetings a part of it so that people can educate themselves and look over the opportunity and think about it and kind of rack up the 7 hours. And being a part of the in-person tour and asking questions is all of it. So that because something happens magically at the end of the 7 hours is we get sick of thinking about it and then we're just ready to make a decision. So that's just one of so many things I could share that I really like about Daniel Priestley. But then there's like other really good books too. Like Dan Sullivan, his series is phenomenal too. Like I don't know if you're familiar with him. 10x is easier than 2x. Who Not How and The Gap in the Gain. I'd say those are really good.
Yeah, I've heard his name a few times too. That's cool. You're giving me homework. I'm gonna go definitely have to research some of these books or listen to them too. My little hack too is like if I don't have time to read a book, I'll look at usually authors do like a speaking tour, and I'll like look at like I'll just watch a 45 minute presentation on YouTube
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
But obviously, because you're recommending this oversubscribed, I definitely want to read that book now. When do you have any advice for someone that's kind of like not doesn't know exactly what they want to do? They watched all the videos and read all the books and just is kind of stuck and doesn't know what actions to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, going back to what I believe about joining programs, I would say join Pace More Beast Sub 2 program because he teaches you so much about real estate investing with creative finance that most people don't even know about. And it's like chess versus checkers, like using subject to seller finance, wraps, and all these things. And Pace also provides such a great community where these people are doing a ton of deals, but they're such go-givers because Pace sets that tone from the top. Join Sub 2, everyone's willing to meet and share what they're doing. And the cool thing about Sub 2 is I think it's around 10,000, but it's a one-time fee for life, which all my other programs is an annual. And I'm sure you probably have an affiliate link, or if you don't, I have one that people can use. It would help us out. But then also Gator, if they want to do more capital raising, private money lending, that's another program where it's within the same community, but the teaching about capital, teaching about private money lending and all the different ways to raise capital, access capital, and that's $3,000 for a lifetime as well. So I recommend that as well. Yeah, to start, and then also just to learn, follow you, and learn from you because you're in those communities. You're always connecting with high level people, and you have such a heart to help people as well.
Right. So basically just finding people that are doing other things that might kind of open your mind and seeing what you connect with or what draws you. With man, you mentioned pace, so I can't help but ask. I know you're obviously wearing the Owners Club t-shirt right now, and you mentioned the calendar series, and having calendar skills is such a huge skill to have. Do you have any like books or recommendations besides joining Owners Club on like how to like time block, set your calendar, maybe even like follow through on your goals and stuff like that?
Man, I can't think of any off the top of my head.
That's all right if you can't too, because I also wanted to ask on the back end of that. A lot of people, capital raising is really important right now. I think Pace has really made that a it's he's made it like a legitimate avatar where people like want to raise capital. I've been in Sub 2 a few years. This past year, a lot of capital raisers are coming up and coming out of the woods. What kind of and again back to the calendar, what kind of KPIs do you have? Like make sure you do. Obviously, you're still posting on social media, but are you reaching out to people? Are you like sending 10 text messages a day or 10 phone calls a day?
Yeah, first of all, on the note of capital raising, said that if there was one skill he could pick out of all of the ones in real estate investing, kind of like Hunger Games, they get in a circle and you grab a weapon. He said he
Yeah,
would pick capital raising because when you can raise capital, people will bring the deals to you. Because whenever
yeah.
people is doing something good like Airbnbs or flips, and they will want to scale, and then at some point they'll need capital. So I think capital raising just and it's also I love it because it's a win-win-win all around, meaning the person who's doing the deal who needs the money, we're helping them scale and hopefully make a good impact with whatever they do. The investors making good returns, and then they're winning and they're thankful. And then we get to help the person we're helping, let's say whether it's in foreclosure or if it's affordable housing, and then I get to make money doing all of this. So it's just a really cool kind of part of it. But to answer your question, like the day to day, I mean, I have a system and a follow-up campaign and all that stuff. And Gator community is where I get a lot of my investors because that group has 12,000 hard private money lenders who have capital, who are getting more capital from HELOCs and business lines of credit and like life insurance policies and rolling over retirement and stuff like that. And they're also raising capital. So I think if you raise capital, that would be a really good group to join. Or if you're like doing deals and you're looking for capital, because that's to me out of the prospecting or investor, whatever I do, that's kind of the lowest hanging fruit and where we get a lot of our partners.
So you say they have like 12,000 lenders in there. How do you reach out to them? Like, what's your method of connecting with them? Or do you just have everyone inbound coming to you because of social media?
Yeah, great question. So what we do is we post, so this is part of the social media strategy of telling the story, and testimonials are the strongest social proof in today's world. They've done studies and it's more powerful than having a best-selling book or going on a TV show, and people just trust testimonials. So what we do is we interview the homeowners we've helped and we make that into a long form content and cut it into a short form like an Instagram. And you've probably seen some on my page. And I would just post that on the Gator community Facebook group and say, hey, Here's a story, really moving story, heartbreaking story of someone we helped. And there's more people like her, which is 100% true. I'm not just saying that. Unfortunately, there's so many people in foreclosure, more people than we can help, and that number is only going up. But then I also mentioned, hey, for our investors, this is the structure, this is the returns, and DM me your email if you're interested in learning more. And then from that, we started a follow-up campaign and automate everything. And by the way, I'm doing a capital raising class, which I'm just recording videos for it before we talk. So I appreciate you giving me extra 30 minutes. But I'm hoping to get that out by end of next week or the following week. It'll be a website, and I'm just gonna record 3 videos on capital raising each week and just add them there so people can come and learn and build it kind of brick by brick as we go. So again, my Instagram is at JoshuaSun26, so people can DM me or follow me and stay tuned for that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing too. I also saw, well, is that going to be free or do they join I mentioned you mentioned joining like a school program at some point. Are you doing anything along those lines?
Yeah, it'll be free, and everybody who kind of builds it together with me, they'll be considered a founder, so they'll be grandfathered in. At some point, I think once I build it out and get it to a rare course, I'll probably monetize it. But the people who get in on the now will be grandfathered in, and it'll be free. Because my goal is, I'm always gonna be learning and growing, and my goal is to become the best capital raiser I can by joining and learning from the best in the world. And so I feel like I'm gonna continue to post helpful, training modules or content on capital raising, but also on social media because that's a big part of it. But the third part of it is just on productivity. So stuff that I'm learning from Jim Quick and mindset and calendar, that's going to be part of it too because I'm in 10 different programs, including Daniel Priestley's strategic coach, Rory Vaden's brand builder, Dan Martell's elite coaching, and other stuff like Jeremy Miner's sales program, Hunter Thompson's race fest, Vin Jang's communication mastery because that's a skill that's very important. So anyways, from all of this stuff, I'd love to learn and just put it all on the website for everyone to just learn for free.
Amazing, man. I want to be like you when I grow up. And I didn't know that you were 45 too. You look super young. I thought we were the same age, but I'm like 10
Asian.
years behind you. So that's really cool. I feel like there's like a million questions I could ask, but that was like kind of like a good starting to be a segue. And I want to respect your time, obviously too. So maybe we can have a conversation in the future. But is there anything else that anyone needs to know about you, or anything else that would be helpful for people to like know to get involved with what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, again, you can connect with me on Instagram. That's the best way. Website's going up in a couple weeks, God willing. So once that's up, that I want to have that as one source of truth where I'm just gonna put all the value there, all the deals and the course. But I think the biggest thing I've learned in the last year or so is I graduated high school with a good GPA, went to Duke, graduated with a decent GPA there. So I thought like technically I was smart or academic, whatever, but I can, and I always want to do business and I want to do real estate, but I just didn't know how. So I was actually in the life of just partying in K-Town, drugs and everything because I was lost. And looking back, I know that it was because I was just trying to numb the pain of being lost. And it's not because like I used to think I was not disciplined or lazy or whatever, but now since I've learned things like real estate investing, tax strategies, entrepreneurship, and self-development, like all this stuff, I'm like, why didn't they not teach this stuff in schools? What I've since realized from Daniel Priestley is that our school system was designed during the Industrial Revolution to produce factory workers who clock in and clock out, don't ask too many questions, don't think too much. And now in the modern day, it's just for the W-2 companies. So my passion to help people leave W-2 or also to just help people learn the stuff that I'm learning at a much younger age. Like if I learned this 20 years ago, I would be in a much better place. So all of that's going to go on my website to share for free with people. But I just want to share the message with people that, hey, schools do not teach you what we need to learn to succeed. You have to learn that through books or programs, but it's out there, especially with YouTube now and all the different, experts having their own course. Yeah, for whatever that's worth. And if anybody has any questions, they could DM me and I would love to connect and just have a conversation about that because that's what I'm passionate about. I really think our youth, our school systems have done a disservice to our youth. And that's why, to your point earlier, people are smoking weed or playing video games. It's not that they're inherently lazy. I think inherently we have discipline that kicks in, but they don't have the vision. They don't know how to get there. So they're like, if this is all it is, and I'm just going to pass the time. And I used to do that too.
Yeah, amazing. And I remember you saying too, you're in the position to help the person that you once used to be. You're in the best position for that. And then just I can't help it, but I was watching a Daniel Priestley roundtable on the Diary of a CEO podcast,
Yeah.
and they were kind of discussing education and how there's no like education. Obviously, it's there's a lot of people saying like it's like basically making you to be our education being people to like become basically factory workers or and another impolite way as slaves
Yeah.
to because of just how it's structured. They said in the context of AI that have like a one-to-one mentorship is the best way that kind of breaks the mold on what's most effective. And they're talking about like AI like potentially being like a mentor or like a one-to-one teacher. But I also wanted to like bring that around too to like say, hey, if you ever did like a mentorship or like if people just go onto your website or followed you on Instagram too and just like had that content, that one-to-one content that you provide people through your social media, I think people get a lot of value out of that too. I know even just this interview alone, I've taken some notes on just everything the value you've been talking about. So
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. And yeah, that's all glory to God. And yeah, I would love to help people, man, just because, as you know, like the fulfillment of changing one person's life, like by God's grace, last thing I'll share is one of the pastors at our church, he actually, I didn't know he followed me on social media, but one day he's like, hey, my son's graduating college. He has entrepreneur spirit, but he doesn't know, he's kind of, needs some direction, but I see what you're doing. Can you mentor him? So I'm like, sure. So I met with him. He's very bright and coachable. So I've been having him read 10 pages a day and go through some of the Jim Quick's programs and sub two courses and like notes on a Google Doc because I told them when you take notes, remember 80% better. But text me every day with one takeaway. And he's been doing that and he's been responding so well. And he's so excited because he's like, man, I'm learning all this stuff that I'm not learning in schools. So again, that's my passion. That's why I'm so passionate because if by God's grace and we can be used by God to impact even one person, right? That's so meaningful. But with technology and the website and everything like AI, like you mentioned, we can do that at scale. So yeah, would love to help anybody who feels lost or if they feel like they're meant for more, but they're just lacking some direction. Yeah, super happy to connect.
yeah, great. And if someone has capital too and wants to invest in your deals, do they just reach out to you on Instagram?
Yeah, just DM me. Yeah, we have, good deals. We're helping people save their homes from foreclosure. You can check out some of the testimonials, just really heartbreaking, touching stories that it's a work that we say God is doing. We just get to be an equal part of that. So yeah, and then of course, I know you're raising capital, you're networking with a lot of high level people, so people should connect with you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing, Joshua. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. It's a huge blessing to find another brother in Christ, but also someone that's doing something that I'm doing or trying to do, and you're a couple steps ahead of me. So I love that. It's a good inspiration for everyone that's watching too, that you can break the mold and make it happen.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I appreciate you, man. Love what you're doing out there. Love that you're just spreading the knowledge, spreading the love, spreading the glory of God. So God bless you, brother. Appreciate you.
You too, man. God bless.